on to Mavi, and she's going to start the workshop.
Hello, hello, guys. So, very excited to be back as always. I'm sure many of us will get a chance to share a little bit about it. But if you don't know, most of us actually were part of SHEP U of H and we're part of the leadership board. So, let's get started. The agenda for today is we'll do a quick introduction um, and kind of get to know a little bit about us. Then we'll start by sharing why storytelling is important. I'm going to give an example on what we do at work and how you can relate it back into your life, right? Hopefully. And then from there, Megan is going to walk through some of the how to tell your story virtually, especially now that we're in a pandemic and most of the recruiting season is happening virtually. So I think it's really important for you guys to take all of these little pieces of advice into consideration. Then we'll do a Q&A. This is the opportunity for you guys to ask questions about virtual storytelling, about your LinkedIn profile, whatever is it that you want. This is the opportunity. And then at the end, we're going to do a breakout group. I see that we have, I think, almost like 12, 13 people here. So the idea would be to break into smaller groups and have more intimate conversations. So this is for you guys to either get to know us a little bit better, expand your network, or ask those kind of questions that you maybe wouldn't ask other recruiters or other people at Accenture. So feel free to ask any questions. So there's no like dumb questions here. Okay. And make out of this whatever you want, right? So the more you're engaging, the better it is. So with that, we'll do introductions. So as many of you guys know, my name is Mari Paez. I'm a digital consultant at Accenture, and I work as an innovation designer for the Houston Hub. A little bit about me. I was a mechanical engineer from the University of Houston, graduated in 2017, was part of the SHEP U of H leadership board. I was the president in 2016, 2017. And and some of you guys also may know me with my art. I did an event recently with you guys, so excited to see you in a different setting this time. And with that, I'll pass it to my friend Megan. Megan, you are on mute.
I do that like at least twice a day. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Copeland. I am a consulting analyst at Accenture, and I currently sit in the Houston Innovation Hub, so on Mavi's team. Mavi was actually one of my first friends in the hub, so very thankful to know her through work. I am a University of Texas alum. I got my master's in marketing analytics from UT and then joined at Accenture right afterwards. And excited to chat with y'all today. Arnold, you're up.
I was trying to find my mute button over here. Hey guys, my name is Arnold Luna. I went to U of H a couple years ago with Mavi and a couple other people that are presenting here. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about how we can improve your LinkedIn profile. And I think during the times that we're in right now, it's really a good idea to try to get like any type of advantage because everyone's in the same situation that you're in. So yeah, glad to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Oscar Rodriguez. I also graduated from U of H back 3 years ago as a mechanical engineer, and I started at Accenture right off of college. Right now, I'm a data science consultant at Accenture, working on the applied intelligence practice. I'm glad to be talking to you guys once more this year, even though we're doing it virtually this time. So if you guys have any questions regarding my practice, please feel free to talk to me during the Q&A. So now to Johnny.
Hey guys, well, as Oscar, Mavi, and Arnold, I graduated from the University of Houston in 2016, I want to say, as a mechanical engineer, part of SHEP for a long time, and joined Accenture right after college, almost up to 4 years now. I'm a tech architect for them right now. I'm doing mostly like a security type project for the company. But yeah, we use basically these type of skills for LinkedIn and selling ourselves virtually throughout our project. So feel free to ask any questions. I personally don't have any filters. So yeah, go ahead. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So hopefully you got a little bit of about us, but feel free to ask us in the breakout groups or in the Q&A more questions. This is really your opportunity to learn more. So with that, I wanted to give a quick overview about Accenture in case that some of you guys have never heard of us or that you're trying to get recruited in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully this is a little bit of information that is beneficial. So Accenture, we provide a broad range of services. We do strategy and consulting, interactive technology, and operations. I have a slide for you guys so you guys can take a quick picture so you guys can be more knowledgeable and sell yourself better, especially if Accenture is your number one company of choice. But as I was saying, we use these type of services across more than 40 industries. So one of the cool things about having the power of having that many industries is that no matter the economy, we always have clients and work, right? So especially through these tough times, I feel like Accenture has done a really good job keeping the jobs and recruiting. So, you know, keep that in your mind. The other thing is we have almost 500,000 people. It's kind of crazy to think that we have that many people in our company, but we do. And this is globally. In the US, we have around 50K employees, but you really do feel the network across the globe. So if you're looking for a global company, this is it. And we operate over 120 countries. Now, a few things that I wanted to highlight is the inclusion and diversity aspect. Accenture really invests a lot on everything that has to do with inclusion and diversity. And one of our targets is be 50-50 by 2025. And what we mean by this is basically we want to make sure our employees across the globe is 50-50 male and female. At this moment, we have 44%. So that is actually crazy to think that we're almost there. We only have 5 more years, and there's only 6% left for us to really achieve our goals. So if you are looking for a company that cares about inclusion and diversity, this is a place. Another thing is we really participate a lot with the LGBT community. So we're very strong partners with a lot of the things that this community does. And obviously we always empower the everyone at Accenture. The last thing I wanted to mention is the ethnicity diversity that we have. Accenture actually recently, our CEO, Julie Sweets, I'm giving you all these nuggets, you know, so that you don't have to do your research. But Julie Sweets recently announced that she's going to basically she made a pledge to increase the numbers of African American and Hispanic and Latinx community in the US, in South Africa, and the UK. So it is really cool to be part of a company that takes care of the people, looks at their numbers, and tries to make the place better, right? So keep that in mind also with other companies as you're recruiting, how much they're really doing for inclusion and diversity. And lastly, this is more for you guys to take a picture. Take a picture, learn more about the strategy and consulting side. This is where we heavily recruit at the conference. We have interactive technology and operations. Take these pillars kind of like our departments. So if you're interested in any of these, make sure that you familiarize yourself with what is it that we do in each of us on each of them so that you could be more eloquent when you're going to the convention. But I'm not going to do that today. I just want you guys to have the opportunity to take a picture. So 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Okay. Before we start, I want this to be very interactive, right? So I want to make sure that if we're talking about telling a story, I want to hear about from you guys. So what I want you guys to do is go to menti.com. I'll type it into the chat box and type in the code, which is going to be, I'm typing it in case you can use your smartphone, you can use your computer, and the code is going to be 6702819. So go to menti.com, and if you want to see the code, it's going to be on top of my screen. But the first thing I want to ask you guys is, what are you excited to learn today? So I'll give you guys a couple a couple seconds. I see everything. Okay, LinkedIn best practices. Yes, we have prepared a few things for you guys. Networking skills. Let's see, what else, guys? Machine learning. Oh, Lord. Okay. Oscar, you're going to be put on the spot. Happy hours, how to approach a recruiter. Okay, how to improve LinkedIn. Yes, how to sell yourself. Networking for sure. Yes, how to tell a story in a compelling way. Great. Let's see. How to get a job. What to say and what not to say. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds. I think we have a few more people. How to show my personality in an interview. Okay. How to be a well-rounded professional student. That's a good one. Best tips for a new normal. Okay. So before we continue into the presentation, we're going to address a lot of these topics in the presentation, but if there is something that we don't cover, feel free to ask during the breakout groups, because these are meant for you to ask those type of questions, right? So feel free to do that. Okay, so let me go back to, can you guys see it? I'm going to take the silence as a yes.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay. So I want to talk about innovation. This is going to be a quick example on how we sell something at Accenture using a story, right? Storytelling is very important to us, and we use it every day to our clients and even with ourselves, right? So let's talk about innovation as an example. As many of you guys have probably noticed, innovation has become a very popular word. Every company is talking about it. And especially this recruiting season, I hope you're noticing how innovation is really at the forefront of every conversation. You see it in radio talks, in podcasts, you see it in books. I'm sure that your professors are even talking about this word. So why innovation? Innovation is a small word for something that is so big and so hard to really achieve, right? So innovation also means a lot of different things to different people. So let's have a conversation. What does innovation mean to you? Feel free to unmute yourself and tell me what innovation means to you.
Thinking outside the box and being creative. Like
Thinking outside of the box. Yes, that's a good one.
Creating something that's never been done before.
Okay. So something new.
Yeah, I think.
Mhm.
Guys, hi. Yes, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. I think it's just about being able to like cause a little bit of a modification to something already existing and making it more impactful in a more efficient manner.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. A lot of people don't think about innovation in that term. What else? What else? Someone else.
I think to me, to innovate is to be curious.
Mm-hmm. Curiosity, for sure. Okay. I mean, everything that you guys have said is part of innovation. So I'm going to give you own interpretation of what innovation is. Innovation is a new way of doing things that adds value. So innovation is a new way of doing things that add value. What do I mean by a new way? This can be something out of the ordinary, right? Thinking outside the box. But it doesn't have to be radical, meaning it can be new, but it doesn't have to be new. As some of you mentioned, it can be a modification of something. It may simply involve applying an idea that was tried in one area to another, or from one client who the concept is new, right? Innovation is really relative. Now, what do I mean by doing things? Now, the idea must be put into action. It doesn't matter if this is an amazing idea that you have in your head if you don't put it to practice, right? So innovation is more than just a good idea. It is a good idea that is brought to fruition, which is often the most difficult challenge, right? Now, what do I mean by add value? So real value is only added when innovation scales across companies or industries. So if I have a really good idea and it can only be implemented in one particular department, but not as a company overall, then innovation is really doesn't add much value. I can create this amazing little robot and it has all these crazy components, but if it doesn't do anything good to my life or make anything better, then it means nothing. Even if innovation for the purpose of innovate, it has nothing. We need to understand why we're innovating. Now, it's also important to know that if a new idea doesn't generate a successful outcome, then it doesn't qualify as innovation. The path to innovation is only associated with failures. So think of these failures as learning opportunities that will provide you with valuable insights. In other words, if you're not, you're not really ready to innovate. So for a lot of companies and people, innovation is a way to stay ahead of the disruption curve. This disruption curve can be something like the Big Bang, just like Uber, for example, coming in and completely flipping the well-established taxi industry. Or simply by a company not really adapting to their customer needs fast enough. So how do you do that? How do you successfully innovate? Well, the first step is to imagine that your company is a fish tank. Yes, you heard me right. I know I have an accent. I said fish tank. Stay with me. In case you're bad at visualizing, I'll help you out. This is a fish tank. Let's take a moment to really understand this image. So many companies say that they want to do innovation. So they come in and throw a blockchain fish in, some AI, machine learning, visualization. Yes, let's put everything in this fish tank. Awesome. And they're like, awesome, we have innovation, we have succeeded. Well, as most of you have probably imagined, and either because you have owned the fish or know anything about fish tanks, most likely the fish quickly dies. And the response is always something like, oh, well, that was a bad fish. It wasn't the innovation, it was the fish, right? Instead, if you know anything about fish tanks, then you know that they're really hard. They're really hard to maintain. You have to monitor the ammonia, the nitrate, the pH, right? You have to also make sure that the fishes complement each other and they're not killing each other, right? So it's important that if you don't know these things and you get it wrong, then you're gonna probably end up with a dead fish and most likely a crying child. So what companies often ignore is the water, or in this case, the culture. The culture and water will enable or kill innovation. The mindset, the processes, the human fear of change, that if all of these are not addressed early, it will kill any initiative that you start before it even has the chance to succeed. This can be you. So are you nurturing your water in order to succeed and make innovation happen. Let's talk about innovation culture. How do we make this little fish survive in this fish tank? At the hub, at the Houston hub, we have created this formula that represents the culture of innovation. And we explain it by basically a multiplication, meaning that if any of these components go to zero, then you don't have innovation. And that's really important. Now, if you ever have the chance to come to our hub in person, you're gonna notice in the lobby that the first thing that you'll see is this beautiful mural that was painted by a local artist called Ganso. This mural has a lot of different nuggets that represents different things for the hub. Different things is this fish tank. And the reason why is because we love talking about how innovation really relates to fishes, like I just mentioned. Now, in order to make our fish or innovation survive, we have created the secret recipe for the water, TCRI. So what does that stand for? The first thing is talent. It is basically the skill set, the diversity, the mindset, the people, right? Do we have the innovation leadership? Do we have the right training and mentoring, right? You have to have that in order to achieve innovation. Then we have collisions. Talents are multiplied by collisions. And by collisions, I mean access to business problems. If you don't have a problem, then you can't really ideate, right? We also have thought leadership, ecosystem partners, collaboration across functions. By that, I mean we have the engineer, the business, the HRs, the people in the field coming all together, working on the same issue. We need to understand everyone's perspective and collide our ideas. Then we have resources. If you have no money, you cannot make innovation, right? If you don't have the sponsorship, meaning people that believe in the product, then most likely your idea, even if it's this amazing, great product, then it won't survive. You also have to have the right processes, the methodology, and even technology. And something that everyone is talking about right now, but is often like left behind, is the data access. A lot of times companies want to do these amazing, great things about let's do automation, let's use machine learning, let's do all these amazing AI. But if they don't have access to data, none of this is possible. So data is becoming very, very important. And hopefully you guys are already listening and hearing the trends about it. But just wanted to highlight that. And the last thing is impact. So impact is how do we really provide value to our clients? How are we scaling? How are we creating the change management required in order to adapt to the new technologies? How are we keeping track of the KPIs, the measures of success, right? Now, impact is, in my opinion, is divided into two aspects. It's basically the impact that we have to our clients, right? But also impact is how people in our work feel that they have an impact of what they do, right? Meaning, if people don't feel like what they're doing is important and they are doing something contributing to the greater cause, most likely people are not giving their full of their abilities, right? So at the end of the day, this is our formula. This is our ammonia nitrate pH. This is the reason this is the reason of why our fish survives, because we took the time to make sure we understood our fish tank before we put a fish in. And that's how we sell innovation to our clients. So let's go back to Menti for a few questions here. Why do you think storytelling is important? Don't be shy. I don't know if we're having a lag or you guys are being shy.
So
Let's see. If it's taking a little while, anyone wants to, okay. It creates conversations that can lead to uncovering skills and ideas. It's what from our heart. It's what comes to from our heart. I'm imagining. My English is also not. Convey a message. Okay. Anyone felt like they understood innovation better or differently because of the story? You guys can go off mute if you want to. So paint a picture for someone. Storytelling is built into our nature as humans. 100% agree. We do this every single time we have babies. We tell them stories, and that's how we entertain, right? So if someone is not seeing themselves into the things that you're talking, if I'm not walking through the halls of SHEP or University of Houston when you're telling me about your classes, then we're not in the same page. I'm not imagining what your experience is like. So it's to connect with others. It's to an extent, it's to entertain for sure. Express your ideas. So what about the story? Anyone felt like you understood innovation a little bit better? Or not?
I feel like the presentation put it into perspective, because innovation, like the word, is being used a lot, like in companies' websites and their missions, or like they just use it a lot to present their ideas, but they don't go to the full extent of what it is to be innovative in their perspective. So this gave me like a little formula to really think about.
Yeah. I feel like one of the most important things is that sometimes we throw these sexy new words and we're like, yes, and we're going to change and the future and all these buzzwords, right? But if we don't spend the time to really understand what they mean, it just becomes fluff, right? So I think one of the most essential things at Accenture that we do is putting the user perspective at the center, right? Most people will understand what a fish is, right? Either you own one or have a friend, or there's even jokes for people to really understand how hard it is to keep up with a fish, right? So putting it into simpler forms allows everyone to understand no matter where you come from, right? Even if you're a technology company, even if you are a products company, doesn't matter. We relate as people, right? So that is the most important thing about storytelling. How do you relate to people? How do you make your story a way for people to really see what you have experienced? So let's go back to the presentation. What is this? There you go. Okay. Why is it important? Storytelling isn't just a new skill or the flavor of the season, right? Every company, this is a new thing, now we have to do it. And it's not really. It's really an opportunity to showcase who you are and what you stand for. So take a pause. I want you guys to start thinking who you guys are and how would you want to convey that story virtually, right? So with that, I'm going to pass it to my friend Megan, who's going to walk through how to do this in a virtual setting.
Thanks, Mavi. So wanted to hear from y'all. Y'all can just kind of shout it out. How do you feel about kind of virtual networking and recruiting virtually? How does that make y'all feel?
Terrified?
Yeah, definitely not comfortable at all. I think we're all like, if majority not Hispanic, so we use our hands a lot, and I don't know, in person, the face gestures and all of that, and I don't know how can I do that in a whole online environment.
I understand you, and I go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, piggyback what Taimi said. Yeah, it's I feel challenged because of that. You're taking something that we do so well, like interpersonal, like impersonal relations. Now, whenever you just have a face to put a smile on, it's challenging.
I 100% agree, and I also think it's it's really hard because kind of the recruiting model has really been focused on those like one-on-one interactions, like the coffee chats, the going to events, the going to conventions, and that's just been kind of completely taken away. And so it's going to be really important for y'all this year to think about how you can communicate and share your story online as much as possible. I know it's hard. I know it's different. But this year, recruiting teams and companies like Accenture are really looking for an online presence and how you share your story, because that's probably what they're going to look at first, versus a couple years ago, the first thing that they probably see about you is you in person at like a one-on-one setting. So how you kind of share your story online is going to be really, really critical this year, and probably moving forward overall. And when you think when we think about kind of a professional story and how you can tell your story digitally, there's really kind of two main areas that you can do. There's one, your digital resume. So that's LinkedIn. And I'm going to really focus on LinkedIn today. And there's a lot of things that you can do on LinkedIn beyond just this is where I go to school and this is where I've interned. You can really use LinkedIn to show who you are and what you're passionate about. The other component is what I call your digital elevator pitch. And this is an online portfolio or a website. And if y'all don't have something like this, I highly encourage you to create one. It doesn't just have to be about what you interned or what you've done in class. It can be kind of different things that you're writing about, different articles you're interested in. It's just another way to kind of bring that personal side of who you are to the recruiting table, but just in a virtual setting. Any kind of questions on these two components? We're going to dig into LinkedIn today because I think it's kind of the critical one that everyone should be really kind of prepared for. But as we go through, if you have questions, shout them out. And then when we go into breakout groups, you can also kind of ask questions as well about other ways to share your story digitally. Any questions before we get started? Awesome. You want to go to the next slide, Mavi?
Yes.
So when you're thinking about your, Mavi, way too far.
Got excited.
I know. When you're thinking about your professional story and what you should be communicating online, there's really three components. The first is your experience. So really, what have you done? And that can be anything from your internships to specific classes you've done to even, the projects and the different activities you're involved in on campus. LinkedIn is definitely not just for, your solely professional experience. Feel free to bring in a lot of the things that you've done on campus and at school and in the classroom. The second component to your professional story is your passions. And I think this is something that is really, really overlooked, but it is something that recruiters and interviewers look at. What are you interested in, and do you share that at all online? If you're interested in nonprofits, or you love volunteering, or you're just really passionate about coding and you're learning different languages on the weekend, sharing that and communicating that online will be really, really critical to kind of set you apart in just a sea of, resumes that get submitted into an application. So don't be afraid to think about who you are as a person and how you can bring that to life digitally. And then the last component is your network. So this is definitely a part of your professional kind of story online. These different tools that you have, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's a blog, whether it's an online portfolio, you should be those to meet new people in kind of your community or in other areas that you're interested in. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but LinkedIn, for example, is a fabulous way to network and get connected with other people. Mavi knows this, and I think this is why she asked me to join this session. I was completely did majority of my recruiting on LinkedIn. I met so many amazing people, many of which I am close with today, have become mentors, things like that. And it's all about that storyline and kind of setting yourself up for success on LinkedIn and reaching out to people in a thoughtful manner and creating those relationships. So your network is really, really important. And I know it's stressful this year, the fact that you're going to have to do a lot of networking virtually, but you can 100% do it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through different components of LinkedIn, and I'm going to showcase my LinkedIn. It is by no means the perfect out there. There are much better LinkedIns, but I have put time and effort into it, and I wanted to call out specific sections that tie to these different components. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll see that LinkedIn can be used to highlight your experience, your passions, and your network. And it really can be kind of one of the most critical tools as you start to learn and meet new people and go through recruiting. So Mavi, do you want to go to the next slide? So we're first going to talk about your experience. So this is a screenshot of the experience section on my LinkedIn. This is kind of the typical section you think of when you think of LinkedIn. What I always encourage people to is really to kind of craft a story around each of their different experiences. So at the top for strategy and consulting analyst, I could have very easily kept it at that. Anyone who looked at my LinkedIn would have one perception of, okay, she's an analyst at Accenture, great. But the fact that I talked about what I've done so far and where I'm interested and what industries I've worked in, that completely changes the definition to whoever reads this of what I'm doing. And it actually starts to shape, okay, so Megan's done this. She seems to be interested in this. I'm having kind of a better idea of what Megan does. The other point I call out on this screen is really describe your impact. So you can look at my LinkedIn. I will connect with all of y'all. But when possible, I really try to bullet out in my other experiences the impact I had. So it's one thing to say, oh, I was a supply chain intern for a whatever company. It's another thing to say, I did this, I led this, I got to work with these people. You may not have, you know, we all know your students and you're kind of developing yourselves, but getting to call out the specific things that you got to drive and own is really, really critical and shapes your story in a different way. And that kind of ties with the last point I call out on this slide is highlighting your quantitative and qualitative results. So maybe you hosted an event for a extracurricular on campus and 100 people showed up. Or maybe you got to complete a certain number of activities at an internship or something, anything. Quantifying it in both qualitative and quantitative ways can be really, really important to kind of bring to life the value that you were able to contribute to that setting. So really this section, this experience section, this is kind of the base of sharing your experience, that experience component of your virtual story. And this is where a lot of people, I would say, don't utilize it. And it's a huge missed opportunity because this is where you can show how much you care and how much you've done. On the next slide, I also called out another kind of area of your experience. And these are sections I always really encourage students to tap into because, you know, you're in school, you're at a great school, you're doing a lot of awesome projects, you're probably winning awards, you're in organizations. Highlight that. You know, that's something that you could very easily bring up in a conversation one-on-one, or maybe there'd be a networking event with a extracurricular you're in. You don't have that now. So what you need to do is really call it out online. In the accomplishments section on your LinkedIn, you can add projects, you can add honors. And if you click on that little down arrow that's on the right, you can actually write a whole story of what you did. You can include attachments, any output or kind of awards that you've had. You can add all of that. Licenses and certifications is really, really important as well. Anything that you've done through school or you've done on your free time, like I said earlier, maybe you're really passionate about and becoming proficient in different coding languages. Adding those licenses or certifications that you've done here is critical because a lot of recruiters actually search for employees online solely by licenses or certifications. So if you have something, make sure it's out there because there are search results from recruiters looking for people that have those exact skills.
And before we move on, I want to say that sometimes, especially as you're beginning your career in the university, sometimes getting that internship is really hard. So instead of focusing on maybe like the first summer, second summer, you don't have an internship, it's fine. Then get yourself certified in something that summer, right? Spend the money, spend the time, because those certifications matter. And with those certifications usually comes certain programs, and always talk about them as well. So keep that in mind.
That's an awesome call out, Mavi. So in the next slide, we've talked about sharing your experiences. That's the first component of kind of your professional story online. Now we're going to shift into your passions, which I'm really excited about. Y'all kind of touched on at the beginning. I know it's super hard kind of being able to connect and kind of show who you are to someone when you don't have those interpersonal moments anymore. But I encourage you as much as possible to engage in an online community, engage online, share your ideas, share your passions, because that's going to allow you to get traction within your network. So there's really two main sections that you can add passions to. One is the featured section. It's up at the top, kind of under your bio. And that's where you can actually link specific media or articles or external publications. And so if you say you have a blog and you write something, I have a blog, that's the one that's linked on the far left. I include that because I want people to see that. Or say you commented on something, or you are really passionate about this nonprofit and they shared something that you're really inspired by, you can tag that here so it comes up. And that just provides additional detail for whoever's looking at your website or your LinkedIn of, oh, this person really is involved in writing and kind of writes about her passions, or maybe he seems really interested in Habitat for Humanity and he's sharing a lot of their articles. It's just another way to kind of show who you are. And I think that ties really well with the bottom experience of volunteer experience. Anything you do, anything you volunteer for, add it here, even if it was just a couple times. This was something that I used a lot, and I actually had people, comment that I talked about. Say I'd reached out to someone on LinkedIn. I'm really for Humanity. I love Habitat for Humanity. And I actually had people that when I scheduled 30-minute kind of calls with them after reaching out to LinkedIn, they would comment about, oh, I saw you currently volunteer at Habitat for Humanity. And they'd ask me, they wanted to know, did I do that? How often do I do that? That kind of thing. It's just something unique. And it's something that you can really share that kind of brings to life your story a bit more.
And I'm going to do another call out because Megan didn't do an emphasis on this, but Nimi, of another coworker, and her, they started their own blog series. So they write articles about things that are happening, right? Like whether it's a commentary from another blog or a book or something that's currently happening. So if you're looking to do things like this where you can showcase more of your personality, everyone is doing something, right? Like you see my art in some cases. This is an amazing opportunity to showcase if you have a website, if you have things that you're talking about, right? People will see it. People will understand that you have certain skills that maybe other people don't have, especially as engineers, right? Like most people as engineers don't think that you have other talents rather than thinking about math and physics, but you do. You're people. So highlight that in this type of stories, right? So if you have a blog, if you have a business, if you have something else, highlight it here because it's gonna put you at a different level than others.
That's a great call out. I actually have a friend who's also an engineer, and he has a photography business, and he tags it on his LinkedIn, and he has had so many people in interviews for a software engineer position, say something like, oh, I saw your photography page. I loved it. The only way they got to that page was because of LinkedIn. And that just brought him to life in a very different way to that interviewer and that recruiter in the room. So highlight who you are. It doesn't just have to be about the fact that you're in this certain major and you've had this type of experience. Does anyone have any questions so far? What are your thoughts on this? Is this kind of good call outs? Are there any questions of how to do this so far?
My only question is like, where's the line of it being like inappropriate and the professional? Like when is informal too informal and when is formal good? You know,
Yeah.
still getting that personality but still being professional about it.
I think that is a great call out, because definitely people online cross that line, and you don't want to be that person. Whenever I post something or I reshare something, I always ask myself, would I care if anyone at work saw this? That is like my baseline. And me at work, I like to bring my whole self to work. I like to laugh and form relationships and things like that. So I may have a different baseline than someone else who's a little bit more reserved or guarded at work. But I always make sure that if someone saw that I work with on a team, they think it's interesting, or they think it's awesome that I'm doing that. Maybe from y'all's perspective, it should be okay if I was doing a networking call or kind of a first round like interview call, and the recruiter saw it, would I be okay with that?
I mean, another way is if you wouldn't share this with your parents, then maybe you shouldn't be sharing it, right? Like I feel like LinkedIn has become a little bit like Facebook, or what Facebook used to be. I don't know if you guys are into Facebook anymore, but where people just share absolutely everything, their thoughts, everything, right? Now, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? Because some people will express their opinions and that will get them places, right? But most likely these people took their time to really brush up what they were saying, what are the key messages, right? It wasn't just a random thought. You have those people that just share, like, I'm hungry. They're like, okay, why does that even have to be in LinkedIn? Obviously not need, right? But when we say that you have to show your personality, you know, if you have a style of writing, if you have a style of conducting yourself, right? If you have videos about things that you do, you can post it. Is it a video of you twerking? No, don't do that, right? Like that's not appropriate. No one wants to see that. So that's kind of like, I don't think it should be this huge dilemma of how you should portray yourself, as long as you know, do you want your child to see this? Do you want your mom to see this? Do you want, like, in future generations, like think in that sense, and I think you'll make the right call.
Thank you, Mavi. Any
other questions?
Regarding the section that you covered before, the experience, is this like the same as in your resume whenever you have your like experience, like your engineering like work experience, all of this should be in there, or just like the most recent?
So I usually encourage people, whatever you call out in your resume should be here as well. And your resume may be a little bit more succinct, like just bullets. If you want to do bullets, that's fine. But really, you have a lot of space to write here if you want to add more color to your experience, to what you did.
And sometimes if you have so much, right, in your resume, you cannot put it. But in LinkedIn, this is the opportunity. Show absolutely every project, all the jobs that you've had, like the responsibilities, right? It's really like a never-ending canvas type of thing.
And I will say, like, I know people who do interviewing at other companies as well as at Accenture, and yes, they have resumes to look at, but a lot of people, before they have a call or go into an interview, will look up LinkedIn. So it's good to add that additional color beyond just what you call out in your resume.
And just to add to that, not only that, but you can also add videos, images, and stuff like that, like Megan was saying. So basically, if you have a project that you are proud of and you have a video or design or anything on it, I would just attach it to the actual experience. That way you have an additional push in there.
I love that idea.
I will make a parenthesis, because something that I've noticed that a lot of you guys are doing that I follow on LinkedIn is showcasing when something happens, like an accomplishment. Hey guys, I'm attending Chef National Conference. that is great because you're kind of showcasing to everyone that, hey, here I am and this is what I'm doing. One of the things that I will also mention is if you have an opportunity to work, I don't know how other companies are, but for example, at Accenture, you have to be very careful with what you say and what information you give, right? So in this case, Megan is not talking anything about our clients, right? There's no information about our clients here. There's no talking about money. There's no talking about certain things that I know a lot of people want to share sometimes. But my advice, and of course it depends on the company you're working with and whatever, just be careful, right? Like, it's not everything. You can share your experience without sharing absolutely everything, right? Like, instead of saying, my client was Starbucks, you can say, working for the largest coffee provider. And that's still okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you be sensitive, have that mindset of, protecting your client, in this case, for us, client, but for you guys, the people that you have worked for and all these things.
I think we're ready to go to the next slide, Mavi. So the last part of your professional story. So we talked about your experience, we talked about your passions, and the last part is your network. So, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it is a blog, whether it is an online portfolio, you should be using it to build your network. I am a firm believer in this approach. It works. You're going to have a lot of people not respond to you. That's okay. That's the real world, and that's how it'll kind of continue to be. But you're going to find people online that are willing to connect and really willing to engage. So what I did here was I sent Mavi like a sample message similar to what I would send when I was a student. And I wanted to call out kind of the key components that I think you should be communicating to people when you reach out to them on LinkedIn. I have a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn and their messages are confusing. I don't know who they are. I don't really know what they're asking for. And it makes me not want to respond. A lot of other people feel this way, especially people that are way higher up than me that have way less time than me. So always, when you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, introduce yourself. Who are you? How do they know you? Maybe you have a connection. It's okay if you haven't met them, but I reached out to so many people and I was like, oh, I saw you're an alum of UT. I am currently a UT student. That's okay. As long as there's some connection you can call out. The second thing I would say is also connect the dots. So kind of similar to that connection, if you saw them talk, if you read something online that they wrote and you liked it, call that out so they kind of understand how you found them. So here I said, like, I heard you speak during the University of Houston event last week. That's great. Or you could just say, hey, I know you go to UT or I know you go to U of H and you're in this job or this industry that I'm really interested in. That's okay as well. They want to know, when you reach out to people, they want to know why you're reaching out to them specifically. You're not just reaching out to everyone. The third thing is explain your interest. So kind of in the second paragraph, I talked about how I'm interested in Accenture. I want to learn more about consulting. You need to include that ask so they understand what you're getting at. I will say be careful here. What you're asking of these people, if you're asking them to connect for a 30-minute phone call, is you're asking of their time. So really show that you're interested. You don't need to come in saying, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking at this specific position. I'm really just wanting to get connected with a recruiter. That's not the way to go about this. And that's not the way to make a lasting kind of network of people. And then the last thing, this is the biggest thing that I was told by one of my mentors when I started doing this, is offer options and information. And when I mean options, I say, explain to them what you want. So if you can see in the second paragraph, they said, are you available to connect for a 30-minute phone call? People understand what you want. And then saying, I'm available most days after 4 p.m., but I'm willing to adapt. You need to give people some idea of like when you're wanting to connect, how you're wanting to connect. If you just say at some point, that's way too vague. And a lot of people go by their schedules. And then the last sentence was, feel free to contact me using the information below. So I added my, you would add your email or your phone number. I actually had so many people email me back directly to my email because they don't message a lot on LinkedIn. So that's a great thing to add. And saying, or I can email you directly to coordinate. A lot of people that I would reach out to on LinkedIn would ask me, hey, would love to, but can you email me directly at work? Because that's how I kind of keep everything organized. So options and information is critical because you want to make it as easy as possible for them to answer you and respond to you. So this is something I would say, this is by no means the secret sauce of how to get people to respond to you. It's just something that I used a lot. I ended up kind of templatizing it so I could share it with a lot of people and tweak it based off of who they were. But I really tried when I was recruiting to reach out to people that, A, we had some sort of connection. Maybe I had met them or they went to, or they had a similar degree to me. And then B, people that I felt like I could really learn from. So I never went into a conversation expecting a job, expecting an interview, anything like that. I truly went in to learn and to kind of open up opportunities and ideas. So that's how you should really, I think is the best way to approach your building your network. And if opportunities or specific roles come up, that's great. That happens organically. But LinkedIn is such a powerful tool to network, maybe even get jobs. You can apply for. And I think it's just fantastic. So I encourage all of y'all to do it, even if it seems kind of scary and awkward, which it is a bit, but it's okay if it works out. How do y'all feel about kind of reaching out to people on LinkedIn? How does that make you feel? Have you done it before? Where are y'all in this kind of LinkedIn networking journey?
Honestly, it kind of makes me nervous because I'm not used to it. Usually I'm used to facing a recruiter in person and actually getting to talk to them. And then sometimes I'll send a message to a recruiter and it'll just get ignored. So it kind of feels like I'm just sending a message to a blank space. So that's kind of my take on it. I know that for some people it works, but that's kind of why I'm hesitant on really doing that, sending a message to the recruiters.
Totally understand. I will call out emailing a recruiter. I mean, messaging them on LinkedIn is great. Recruiters by nature get a lot of emails. So I highly recommend people just reach out to professionals that are in a job that they're interested in. So if you really want to be a software engineer and you're interested in a company like Amazon, reach out to a software engineer at Amazon that you may know through a friend of a friend on LinkedIn, or maybe they went to U of H. So it's not just a recruiter, it's more meeting new people at companies so you can better understand that company and what it's like to work there. And I will also say, yes, you will get ignored. Recruiting is hard, I know, but I did see that, the more people I reached out to, the more opportunities I had. And there were a lot of people that didn't reach out to me, but the people that did connect with me really made a difference.
I'm about to post this on the chat. Is just a comment, but I want to make sure I say it out loud. Is if you're interested in consulting, this is something that you need to really hone in. Like, you need to get comfortable, like ASAP. I remember when I joined Accenture, the sole idea that I could book someone, like a meeting for 30 minutes to someone that I haven't met in my life, was like, no, I can never do that. I first have to talk to them. I first have to email them. But at Accenture, in consulting in general, we don't have time for this, right? Like, and the culture is really just, let's put some time and get to know each other. So you need to really get comfortable doing that. So practice while you're a student, practice finding out, like, for example, if you're interested in a field, let's say you, in your case, Fernando, you want to do more technology, right? Like, maybe there's not a lot of people that you know in technology, but maybe you can reach out to other Latinos in technology. And that right there is a connection, right? Like, they didn't have to go to U of H, but you can be like, hey, I see that you're in this field. You're in the company that I'm interested in. I want to learn more about your experience. Like Megan, like, you're not asking them for a job. You're just asking them for them to share about themselves. So, and that applies inside Accenture. So we do this often. Sometimes we're exposed to like, yeah, you have to figure out who's involved, and you have to meet with 3, 4, 5 different people that you have never met before. And that's how you increase your network, really, by just putting yourself out there.
And what's great is, you know, when one of the biggest benefits of being a student reach, that you can always come from that place of I'm a student and I'm trying to learn. That is very hard for people to say no to. And people a lot of times want to help students. So I would 100% take advantage of the time you're in now, because this is a time where you can just connect with so many people saying I'm a student, and they're much more willing to give their time to you.
Yes. Another advice, and maybe this is a bit raw, but people love talking about themselves. So give them the opportunity to talk about themselves, right? And so don't be shy. Just do it. And if you need someone to review, you know, the message you're about to send, ask a friend, ask someone that is that is doing a similar thing, right? Like, make sure that what you're sending is polished and that you're helping one another and in the goals that you guys have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Hey Mavi, Megan, appreciate coming out here. My question is, how do you reach out to a company that you really don't know anybody that works there? Let's say from Shep. From my company, I don't know anybody that works there that's here in Shep. And let's say I want to find them on LinkedIn. What's the best way to reach out to people that are working on that company, even though I don't know anybody that works there? How do I find them? How do I search for them? That doesn't look weird because, people see that you're looking at the profile. So what was the best way to reach out, and what was the best way to connect with those companies that are not really interested in Shep?
Yeah.
Yes, I was trying to do that last week. So it's going to be really useful.
So number one tip, you can be on private mode on LinkedIn, which I highly recommend.
How do you do that?
You have to go to your settings. I can look it up after this call, but you can put yourself on private mode so people can't see that you're looking at their profile. Highly recommend. And totally understand your question. Like, there were so many companies I was really interested in and could not find anyone I sort of knew or maybe had heard of or had met at something else. That's okay. What I would do is I would go to that company's LinkedIn page. Usually it says, this many people from your school work here. So that could be just a U of H connection. If not, say there's no U of H alumni there. What I would recommend doing is just looking at the employees that are in that company, because every time you go to the company page, it connects you basically with a list of every employee that has linked on their kind of experience section that they work there. And just going down the list and finding the 1 or 2 people that have the job you're interested in, or or in the group or department you're interested in, and reach out that way. And it's okay. You can be like, hey, I'm majoring in this and I'm really interested in this, and I'm just really wanting to learn more about your company. And, reaching out to enough people asking that, someone's going to say yes.
Another
Does that
way,
answer your question? Oh, go for it, Mavi.
Yeah, sorry. Another way that I've seen is that actually LinkedIn uses the same idea as social media, where you can put hashtags to a lot of things. And let's say you want to learn more about artificial intelligence. If you look at the hashtag artificial intelligence, you're going to start seeing a lot of people, what they post, if they're writing articles, if they're writing things, right? And so then you're starting to familiarize yourself with who are the kinds of people that are trying to put themselves out there. And if they are, they're potentially even more willing to talk because they're putting in the effort to putting content outside, right? So like Accenture, I know a lot of people at Accenture love to post articles about Accenture, things, trends, and things like this. And we always use hashtags. So find the hashtags that people are using, right? Like, what are you trying to learn? find the hashtags of these things that you want to learn, and then figure out who these articles, the writers, the people that are reposting and things like that.